I spend a lot of time talking about camera gear here on YouTube and on my Instagram, but the truth is that is a very small piece of the puzzle when it comes to making a great film. There are all kinds of other things to consider, like having good set design and a good script and a good storyline and working with actors. That's why in this video I wanted to try something a little bit different and delve into how to direct actors. I was able to sit down with the lovely and talented Liz Venz. She's an amazing actor that's worked on a bunch of projects together with me, and I wanted to get her perspective as an actor on how to direct actors.
Okay, well, thank you for sitting and talking to me about actors.
Of course.
And directing actors.
Yes.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about who you are and what your background is?
My name's Liz Venz. I graduated from Virginia Commonwealth University with a BFA in theater. I've also studied Meisner, some other acting techniques from Stanislavski to stagecraft to stage combat to all kinds of things.
Stage combat, what was that like?
I was not very good at it, but I did get certified in rapier and dagger, which was fun.
Rapier and dagger, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, I know who I'm going to next for stunts
It's been
on our
a
next
long time.
All right, cool. Would you say, so as an actor, do you have preferences on how you interact with a production or with a script or a cast and crew and stuff like that?
Yeah, coming from a theater background, you usually have a lot of time in theater to rehearse. Usually it's about 6 weeks, sometimes more, sometimes less. But going into a lot of indie film projects, that kind of stuff, you're kind of cast and then you get the script and you do it.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of rehearsal time. You're kind of lucky if you get a day to rehearse before shooting. And a lot of times you meet the people on set, like at the first, you've done the audition, you've done the callback, maybe the director's there, maybe they're not, and that's your first introduction is the day of. So I think any time that there's an option to get as much information about the project, as much interaction with the cast and crew beforehand, I think that's gold.
So you know who you're dealing with, who you're
you know
acting
who you're
with,
dealing with. You get a clear vision of what the project's going to be, because sometimes you don't see, well, a lot of times you don't see the storyboard. You don't have a clear.
Right.
It's just living in the world of the script as far as
sometimes you don't even get the full script until either the day of the shoot or whatever, or maybe not even at all if it's a bigger project. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, coming from somebody who likes to rehearse a lot and try new things, I think that's really important, because I think rehearsal is kind of what actors do in theater as to what directors do in editing, because rehearsal is the time you get to experiment and try new things. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, that's fine. But when you're on set and you only have X amount of time to do this many takes, that's all you get.
Yeah.
And then put it together.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're kind of going in to working a job with all of these different people, and like they say that any film project is it's a team sport.
Yeah.
You need to know who's on your team and like how they work together.
Right.
In order to so rehearsal is a very good thing. Could you think of an example of maybe like what a good experience would be with the director?
Yeah. So I have worked with directors who also like graduated with theater degrees or worked in theater before, and they had acted before, and I think that's always very helpful, because you can kind of speak the same language and they'll think about it more from a character side than not necessarily more from a character side than a technical side, but they will consider that and know how
have a different vocabulary.
Right, which makes it a lot easier to understand what's going on and to get a better performance, and they'll spend the time with you. So making adjustments that are helpful instead of just be like, okay, be angrier or be this. I did work on this little short film where it was great. We spent a lot of time rehearsing. We had like a couple table reads. The director wanted to make sure that the actor and I, who had some intimate moments together, were very comfortable and understood what was going on, and just kind of created the world of the story for us very clearly, which really was invaluable. The day of, and everything we shot really quickly. It went very smoothly. And then he also let us try a few takes differently than he had directed. And he actually used part of that in the thing because it was fresh and it was new and we weren't doing it the way that we had rehearsed. And you got a new moment or two and it was more real than...
You're kind of talking about a director being able to have flexibility.
Yeah,
for,
flexibility.
For actors to add their skill, their creativity. You got hired for a job. Like, why not let me... Or as an actor, like, why not let me, like, add
I think some of the bad times being on set, I felt like a prop.
Can you think of an example of a specific example of a bad experience with direction?
Yeah, no, there have been times where it's just been like, okay, it's just the kind of be angrier direction, but like why? What is going on in the scene? Why would the character be angrier?
So it's like insufficient information is always a bad sign of...
Right. Or maybe just being shut down. With a choice, or if something didn't go right and it's maybe not helpful criticism, it's just criticism.
It's just...
And you don't know where to go from that.
Right.
Especially if it's like an emotional scene or something, or you're I don't know, you're in a moment and then there's like a block in your head and it's hard to get back in the groove of things too. Acting is not like a technical thing where you can put a lens on a camera and it's going to look the way it's going to look. You've got to be in that moment and give that real performance and interact with the other actors, and it's hopefully going to be an organic, real reaction that's not always the same, but it's in that world of the story.
So if you're in a scene together and you're working on something, like, do you have a preference as an actor, like how you want or how you like it when the director like speaks to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think really like no feedback is probably a good thing with a lot of people, but I would prefer some feedback of like encouragement or like a slight guidance. And I think if it's like a very intense scene or an emotional scene or something that isn't like super superficial or anything like that, I kind of want to stay in the moment, and it's helpful if the director talks to me as the character between takes and talks to that character and kind of is the voice in the head of that character. Kind of it helps the character mull over how to get somewhere. So it's maybe questioning, what is the other actor's relation to me? What do they want from me? And then maybe that kind of, it motivates something different that I hadn't been pursuing as the character in the other take.
Yeah, and so you're also kind of referring to like just like a supplement of context.
Yeah.
And not just the surface level, like, oh, you got to be mad or be sad.
Right.
Like, okay, well, why and how and
yeah,
that kind of stuff. Even if it says it in the script, that's one thing, and like they could discuss it together, like during your rehearsals or whatever. But if it doesn't say that, and you're kind of like in the dark, it's not going to do you as an actor any good for them to just come up and say, oh, well, like,
right. I mean, like, be mad if it's in the script, then I think that's like your homework as an actor is to find what that character would be angry about in that moment, and then but if it's like a note to be angry, or what is motivating that, what is maybe there's a stronger connection to something than, I don't know. Yeah, it's all about communication and being able to connect in a less technical way, and it's almost like you have to have a little psychology as a director under your belt to deal with actors, I think.
You had mentioned before we started rolling, you were talking about this idea of like interrogation as a directing technique.
Yeah, that's
is that something that you like as an actor?
I like
that
a lot as an actor. So there's a thing that I've heard of and experienced a few times called interrogation, which is kind of what I was saying about the director talking to the subconscious of the character, not the actor. So you wouldn't come to me and say, Liz, why are you doing this? What does the character want? You would talk to the character saying, why do you think he's saying that to you? Do you really think, and maybe you're trying to get them to be suspicious or something of the other character in the scene, or maybe you're trying to get something else, but you question the character to try to get them into that mindset. And I think it's kind of silly to say, but like the character is, like the actor is a vessel for the character, and a lot of actors I think feel that way because you kind of like have
wanna
that
embody
weird
them,
embody experience, and I think that's helpful to not think of yourself playing the character. You're just like in the moment as the character, and I think that's a good way of keeping actors in the scene, in the moment, and focused and running smoothly. I think it'll help you run smoothly too.
So you're kind of referring to providing context, providing subtext, and giving motivation without extricating the actor from that moment.
Right, because I think that's a good way of keeping the organic performance. You're not telling somebody I think the worst thing you can do is tell somebody how to say a line.
Oh god,
the line
that's
reading
like
thing is just
that is like the number one rule. Like you say it like this.
But it's real. But like when
yeah.
you're telling somebody I want it more angry, you're honestly kind of doing that in a lot of ways, because what do you think angry means? Loud and da-da-da, and like you're playing to a certain idea. A lot of really fun things I've done in theater have been when you know all your lines, you know the story, you've spent a few weeks in rehearsal, and then you just improvise as those characters. That's really fun, and if you somehow have the time and everyone together to be able to do that, that's a really fun thing. Or if you're really stuck in a scene and something just isn't working, to get those characters to play a little and then come back to it can really freshen things up.
You've talked a lot about communication as far as being able to being able to get as much information as you can. Would you say that there are certain types of films or certain types of shots that benefit from having more or less information? Or
well, if you're doing a big kind of production that exists in a world that's not contemporary, I think that's really important. Or if it's something kind of abstract, or it involves green screen or CGI or anything like that. I mean, if you haven't seen what that looks like or have a clear understanding of the environment you're existing in, that's a very difficult thing to do. So I think that definitely needs to be as clear as possible, because it's not there the day I'm shooting, and it can come across as muddied or unclear, and I just don't feel confident if I don't know, and you're not going to get a great performance out of somebody who's not feeling confident in what they're doing.
You don't know what you're looking at.
Right. Well, of course you're not going to know what you're looking at,
but
because it's not going to be right there, but as much information, as much storyboard stuff you can see as possible beforehand, so you can understand it and feel comfortable with it, and just trust that it's going to be like that when it comes out.
Yeah. I mean, and that also too, that is what makes a good VFX.
Right.
You know, you have to be able to like tell your actor, like, look at this like tennis ball, and okay, well, what is that? You weren't explaining to me like, this is a 50-foot dragon. Like, you'd be like, okay, well, I don't like. Is it mean? Like, am I afraid of it? Do I not like dragons?
Yeah. Am I the mother of dragons?
Yeah. Exactly. So you were earlier. You're talking about preparation and like so. All right. So every actor is different.
I think at least a table read is very imperative to sit down with your actors before you start shooting. If you don't have even the time for a rehearsal, just to get to understand how they'll receive adjustments on set. Like what do you prefer the way I talk to you is, or what would be helpful to you as an actor? Because different actors have different training. They respond to certain things differently. But most of us want to be nurtured and, funneled into the right, or not right, but the
most
the ultimate vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also don't be a grouch on set as soon as we walk in. It's really intimidating to walk into set and the director's just in a bad mood. They're stressed out about everything. They're barking at people, and especially if you're going into something where it's emotional or vulnerable, it's like automatically you get a little tense and you're not as free to flow with your emotion as you'd like to be off the bat. So I think I know it's incredibly stressful and there's so much to manage, but being as even-keeled and as benevolent of a leader on set as possible is the ultimate number one great thing you can do as a director from an actor's perspective.
What advice would you give to someone that has never directed actors before, but really wants to and is an aspiring filmmaker?
Just understand you can control as much as possible technically and do that, but consider that preparation that you take before getting onto set and all the time you took to make sure you had all the right equipment, everything's booked, everything's locked into place. with everything, and then consider your actors also need to do that for themselves. So giving them the amount of time to create that character, to get that locked in place for themselves before you get on set, I think will serve you very well. Yes, you're the director, but once again, filmmaking is a collaborative art form, so asking your actors, like, what do you think this character would do and why do you think they would do that, is a very helpful thing, and it might lead to new ideas. And once again, being able to have that flexibility to let the creativity be creative and new, I think is very, very important. But it's like all this technical stuff you can control beforehand as much as possible, and the sound is great and the cinematography is great, but then the people who are watching, I think, are mostly going to be watching for the story and the actors as like
That's
lay
absolutely right.
audiences. So I think spending the time to get those characters to tell that story in the world that they live in is really, really crucial.
Liz also wanted to point out that some of the things that we discussed during the interview are things that worked for her as an actor, and that the best thing to do would be to try to get to know your actors the best that you can before you start a project, and that'll help you make a great film together. Okay, that wraps up today's video. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments if you like the material of a video like this, because I think I want to make some more videos for aspiring filmmakers on something other than camera gear. Follow me on Instagram for more cool filmmaking stuff, and until next time, thanks for watching.